And we have Stacey Alcala on here, and I just requested to unmute you, so you should be able to do that. But thank you again for hopping on here. I'm so excited. Will you just start off by sharing your story and telling us a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get into all the good stuff.
Absolutely. One, I am so honored, Morgan, that you asked me to be a part, because I so believe in this team, okay? And every day I do pray for just God-ordained moments, and I'm praying that tonight there would be a God-ordained moment for you, that I wouldn't just be up here blowing smoke or anything like that. But I am so excited for everything that is happening in this company, in this business, in this team right here, killing it. And so I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm in Austin right now. I'm at an Airbnb. I don't know how I feel about this fan behind my head and stuff, but we're just gonna get for a second. Okay. I joined this business 6 years ago now. I just celebrated my 6th year on July 8th. July 8th, yes. So Sherry Lynn is my sister-in-law. Had just got a job as the receptionist at my girls' school, because my husband and I had always been in full-time ministry up to this point in our lives, and that's what we did. But I didn't want to leave my kids anymore in the summer, my girls. And so I decided to stay home and not work at the church anymore and get paid for it. And then I realized, we can't do anything else. I can be home, but we can desperately do nothing else. Like, we can't eat out, can't go on vacation, girls can't be in sports. I'm like, I don't know, this is the right choice. So I got a job as a receptionist at the girls' school. Okay, so I just got that job, and then all of a sudden my phone started blowing up. I was at a kids camp. My husband was a kids pastor at the time. He's a next gen executive pastor now, but and my phone started blowing up, and I'm like, oh my word, what does Sherry Lynn want me to do now? Okay, because like when she gets something on her mind, right? Anybody, those reds in your life, when they like can get you to do anything. So I'm like, she's got something in mind that she desperately wants me to do. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it, so I'm not going to answer the phone. Okay, because I'm like, if I pick up the phone, I could be in trouble. All right, so if some yellows out here, you kind of know that feeling of like, ooh, I don't know that I can do what they want me to do, but I love them so much. I want to help them. But when Sherry asked me to do this, I was like, no, you're crazy. Like, there's no way I'll be no good at this. And she even tried, usually her go-to, like if she can't get me to do it, she'll call Joey and be like, Stacey needs to do this with me. And Joey was like, oh, I don't know about this one. Like, we don't really know anybody who's been super successful in something like this. Like, no belief. Like, no belief in myself, no belief in a business like this. I knew in my heart Sherry would be successful. Okay. So I guess we have that gifting as yellows. Honestly, we can see a lot of great things in other people. We have a hard time seeing them in ourselves, but we can see them in everybody else. And our belief for them just goes so far. And so I was like, I'll be your best customer. Like, I think the products look cool. I want to try one of those wraps. Like, and so for 3 weeks straight, Sherry Lynn literally asked me every day to join her team in some shape or form. I'd be like, no, I'm not a salesperson. She's like, oh, you're not? Okay. And then the next day she'd be like, wait, do this. And finally I was like, Joey just looked at me. He's like, you never know if you never try. So why not just try? Okay. So I will tell you, I signed up scared out of my mind. I literally hit back in the day, the website was real glitchy. If you were on Safari, I don't know if anybody, shout out to anybody who remembers, like, always ask people if they're on Safari because it might not work. So I would hit submit and it wouldn't go through. Okay. So literally on the 7th time, I was like, Lord, if this doesn't go through, it's a sign you don't want me to do this business. Okay. And I hit it and like, ding, 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 like, welcome to the company. And I was like, oh, okay, guess we're doing this. Like, I was so ready to tell Sherry, like, I tried, okay? I'm not going to do it. I'm not supposed to do it. I was going to blame it on the Lord, okay? So, but it all went through. And, here's the thing. I did everything because I'm a yellow, all right? So everything Sherry told me to do, I did it. And we were successful. We really worked real closely together in the beginning. I started my job as a receptionist, so I was really busy. I had a full-time job. My girls were in 1st grade and 3rd grade. And my husband's in ministry. So we were at church all day on Sunday. I was at work all throughout the week. And I went diamond in 3 months and earned a bonus. So like, if you're on here, put a 1 in the chat. If you're like, hey, I just signed up, I'm still up for that $15,000 bonus. You can do it. I'm telling you right now, you can do it. Don't let any unbelief or anything get in the way of that, because it's so possible. I'm like 100%. If I can be successful in this business, you can too. And I know a lot of people say that, but I just did the things that I saw, and I did them scared. I didn't do them as much, right? Sherry was all guns a-blazing. I'd be like, okay, I'll do that part. I'll do that part too. But I would take some time, and I really invested an hour every day into my business, even within my schedule. Okay, so it would look like getting my kids to bed and then spending time doing the business. And then it would look like getting to the school 15 minutes before, because I couldn't be on my phone at the school as a receptionist. So it looked like getting to the school, 15 minutes early, putting up a post before I walked in my house with my girls in the car, things like that. Sending out messages, sending out invites to things we were doing. And so I went diamond in October. So fall, you can promote in the fall. So if that's like a myth you're holding on to, let that go. I promoted to diamond on Halloween. And then I went to conference, okay? And I still did not have a lot of belief even going to conference. Being a diamond, going to conference, I was still like, ah. And I got there, and I remember getting in the elevator and going like, am I a part of like a Tupperware company? Like, is that what I'm doing? Like, I'm like, wait, but they all have shirts that match. Like, I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Okay. So I felt like that for a second. And then that was like before the conference actually started, but I was a little freaked out for a second. So we got in there, and I always will remember Cindy was the first person to speak that opened our conference. And she was just like, I prayed over every chair that is in this building. And I know that we're blessed to be a blessing. And that's why I'm praying for you, that you will be blessed, that you would turn around and be a blessing. And I'm like, I might belong here. Like, that's something I can hold on to. That's something I can do. And that switch started to flip in that moment of being at conference and being around people, being around somebody who's like, I can't walk outside my house without throwing my cat and hitting a family member. And she's an ambassador on the stage. I'm like, okay, I mean, you're not supposed to judge people, but I was a little bit like, I might be able to do this too. Like I was like, wait a second. It's not all this cookie cutter people that are successful in the business. And that was freeing to me, because I'm like, I can't be somebody else. And so I went, but I remember we flew together, and Sherry and I were charting, and we were both like, we need a miracle for Stacey to go double diamond. Okay. So if you're like sitting there and going like, yeah, I need a miracle, trust me, you're not alone. But left conference and went double diamond that month. And then, you know what? I hadn't been growing my market. And so that double to triple year, I mean, things were just kind of coming in for me because I had a pretty good warm market. I will say that. And then I had to learn. I came to a place, and I think that's so often in this business, when I look back, I'm like, oh, that was a moment I had to learn and grow. And then something changed. And every time you're faced with that choice, you can tuck your tail and run, or you can learn and grow. And so that was the thing. I'm like, okay. So I went all the way till conference next year, went triple diamond, and then 2 months later went presidential. If I could tell you a little bit of my presidential story, that month I was at kids camp with no phone service except for one little corner in the middle of nowhere where I'd have to run about 20 minutes to go. So I'd run for 20 minutes, go post, send out messages, do all the things, run back. And I do that 3 times a day. I'm like, okay, we moved. My house was infested with fleas. No joke. It was horrible. Our brand new house, the painters were pulling up and so we were stuck, our family, in a house with Joey's parents. They're awesome, but I mean, I'm trying to promote too. And the second to last day of the month, I had 3 meetings set up with 3 potential DTs. And I had 1 spot left that I needed to be filled to go presidential. And a girl signed up on my team. I met with her, but she signed with someone else. My team that day. She's like, oh, I wanted to meet with you, but I'm joining with so-and-so. She's on your team. I'm like, dead. Okay. Then the other one, I was driving to the meeting, and she called me. She's like, can't meet you for coffee anymore. I'm like, okay. And then the other one was coming to my house this is when we would do wrap parties. I just did it all. I don't know what to tell you. At the beginning, we just did it all. And so she came and became a loyal customer. I couldn't talk her into it. And so on the day before the last day of the month, a girl joined my team, and her husband wanted to lose weight and ordered over 400 BV in products themselves. Second to last day of the month. So y'all, don't just because something's hard, you don't just so often we'll feel like, oh, things are hard. God must not want this from me or something, or it must not be the right time, or maybe I need to grow, or maybe we come up with all these excuses. But often when things are hard, usually mean that God's in it. It usually means you've set yourself up for a miracle, like when the children of Israel were walking and they had to step into the Jordan before the waters parted. And sometimes you might be sitting there standing beside the water waiting for it to part so you could walk through, and God's going, hey, put your foot in, take some steps in and watch it part. And just put yourself in that miracle territory. It's amazing what God has done in my life, the faithfulness I've seen in him by doing something that's so far out of my comfort zone. And so I went presidential, and then so that was just under 2 years. And then we went on a run for ambassador. And I built to ambassador 3 different times without going. And I wanted to give up and I wanted to quit a lot in the midst of that. I didn't want to often do the hard things of just showing up and being there and being consistent. And my team started quitting all over the place. Okay. So I lost presidential. I never lost triple diamond. And I know there's some new people on here too that might not understand everything I'm saying, but for the leaders, for the people who are going for stuff, okay. I remember, one thing, when I went double diamond, that double diamond, one of the little 400 boxes way down there on my emerald was Kelly Brown. So just remember, one person can change your whole business. All right. Now, fast forward to going from presidential to ambassador. The only leader left on my chart from when I went presidential to ambassador was Kelly Brown. So my whole team it changed. So many things changed from what they were. And as a yellow, because I know we wanted to hit some of that yellow things, that was hard. Watching people leave the business, watching people not be successful in the business the way they could, watching them that they could do more, knowing that if they just stuck with it, all these things, you get wrapped up in it. It's kind of like that mom dog when she's given birth. I don't know if you've ever, but I feel like I'm supposed to set some people free from this tonight, okay? I will remember this as a 3rd grader. I wasn't allowed to have dogs, but my friends had puppies on a snow day. I'm from Canada originally. Okay. So I was up in the snow and so we went to their house for the puppies to be born. It was so cool. Well, one of the puppies was dead. And the mom knew, I have to get that dead puppy out of there. Otherwise that mom will just obsess over that dead puppy and the other ones will be neglected. And I'm like, man, guys, so if you're sitting here right now in your business and you're obsessing over something that's dead, don't neglect what's alive and what has so much potential. They always tell you that, it's easier to give birth than it is to raise the dead, but do not focus and become so obsessed with that. I think as yellows, we are like, anybody can do this. I promise you could do this. What else could I do for you to help you to stay in, to keep going? And we carry all this pressure instead of running and showing people what to do. We try to drag and push people ahead of us so often. And so I had to let go. Close friends, family members, lots of things like that just I had to let go of. And so I was maintaining triple diamond with 52,000 BV. Okay. That was October, November of 2018. And then in March 2019 is when I hit ambassador diamond. So we just started I mean, you just see these things. Something that Cammie has said in the business is 18 months, you'll see the efforts. That's when you'll be rewarded some of the most in your business. And I'll tell you, making that decision, I'll be like, man, I can't wait to see what's going to happen in 18 months. Because right now it feels like nothing. Okay. I'm putting in all this effort and it feels like nothing. And sometimes you got to be in the long game. So Ambassador Diamond went Double Diamond 2.0 just 2 months ago.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. There were so many good little nuggets in that story. I wrote a ton of notes down. Did y'all love that? Like, everybody in the chat was like blowing it up. They were like, oh my gosh, this was crazy. Like, you were just speaking to so many people already. So thank you for sharing your story. And it's so funny because 2014, that's when you joined, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a good year for the company. They got you, Sherry Lynn, me, Rachel Jones. I'm like, okay, 2014 was popping. And also, it was so funny though, like this is not like what I got from your story, but I had to try like 18 times to join the business too, because my thing kept messing up and I had a different billing and shipping and you weren't allowed to do that. So I had to call customer service and they spelled my name wrong. And so I had to like fix that like over the phone. It was so funny. But anyways, yeah. So like, and I did the same thing. I was like, all right, God, if you don't want me to do this, like, don't let it go through. And the lady was like, all right, ma'am, everything is submitted. I was like, shoot. Okay, here we go. But yeah, that's so funny. I forgot that happened until you just said that. I was like, no way. Okay, so that was so good. Okay, so you talked a little bit about this in your story, but you mentioned the yellow color personality and that's what you are. And I wanted you to talk about that tonight too, because guys, if you've never taken the color personality test, I'm going to write his name in the chat or somebody else can, but it's the Jacob Adamo test. And it's literally, it takes like 10-15 minutes. It's not designed to take long because it's supposed to be your knee-jerk reaction to the 4 choices that there are. But there's 4 color personalities, just really quick, because if you don't know the basics of this, it's not going to make sense when she talks about it. So basically the red color person, it's red, blue, yellow, and green. Red color personality, me, very like determined, money driven, like goal oriented, like she talked about that before. Like Sherry Lynn is also red and very like, I'm going to get this done. Like no matter what, like no excuses. If you tell me an excuse, I'll tell you how you can fix it. Like very like this. But they also have really good qualities too. They're very like natural leaders. They're very well spoken. They usually have a lot of confidence. That's a red. Blue, very fun, like the woo person. Okay, if you're a woo person, you're probably a blue. If you're like, oh my gosh, this is fun, you're probably a blue. Love to have fun, life of the party. Even if you're an introvert, you may not be somebody who's like the loud one. You don't have to be loud to be a blue. You could be an introverted blue and you're just around the excitement all the time. You're not like the one that's like this, but you're just near it and you love being around a lot of people. Yellows, that is Stacey, and that's what we're going to talk about. Is very people focused, very helpful. They love to like help other people. They're the ones that if you talk to them about this business, they're like, oh my gosh, I would love to tell so-and-so about this business because they could use this opportunity. Or if you mention the coffee, they're like, okay, that sounds good. Also, I need to talk to my mom and see if she wants some too. That's your yellows. They usually have a job that's helping people. So in ministry or a nurse or a CNA or those are, or a teacher, those are your yellows. And then a green is very like organized, very systematic, very analytical, they overthink a lot of times, but they also have a really, like once they understand something, they have a really like crazy confidence in whatever they're talking about, and you can never argue with them if they are confident and like feel strongly about something. So anyways, all that to say, this isn't like color personality Zoom, but I wanted her to explain her yellow color personality because it's so funny because 75% to 80% of people are yellow, either primary or secondary. Okay, because you have your top 2 colors. So I'm a red blue. Stacey is a yellow blue, right? Yellow blue. So yep. Stacey's a yellow blue. So those are her 2 top personality colors. So most of you are a yellow something or a something yellow. And I wanted her to talk tonight about some strengths that she has as a yellow, because I think a lot of times you might view yourself as a yellow as very weak, or other people might view you as weak, and that's not true. I know I viewed yellows as weak because I was just so like bulldozer and very unhealthy in my red, but I wanted her to talk about how that yellow is a strength, and then also some struggles that she's had to overcome as a yellow. If you're not a yellow, I want you almost to listen even more than the yellows, because this is going to help you relate to 75 to 80% of your team and to understand the way that they think better. And you become a better leader when you understand your team better, when you don't try to get them to think the way you do, but when you stop and you say, I'm going to try to think the way you do. And when you meet them where they're at, you're going to be able to help them so much more, and you become a healthier version of whatever color that you are. So let's talk about some strengths and some struggles and how you've learned to overcome that as a yellow.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So when I was looking at, when Morgan sent me that question, I was like, oh shoot, we could come up with like 500 weaknesses. That's just like human nature, right? We look at something, we're like, this is where I'm horrible at, especially women. We're like, okay, women and human, like we got two against us. All right. On that note. But when I was thinking about some of those weaknesses, we tend not to step out as much unless it's for someone else. Like we don't tend to step out for ourselves. Like I'll put my neck on the line for my kids, for my friends, everything like that. But if it's for me, that's a little bit harder. We tend to be a little more quiet about the things we're doing. So as leaders, we might be doing great things. We don't talk about them or share them because we don't know if they're good or not. So we'll sit here in this like little bit of like, is this worth saying or not? Is this worth taking a risk for myself and telling everybody what I'm doing or not? You know what I mean? Like, let somebody affirm this in me before I go help everybody else. Okay. So, we can get stuck in there. We want a rally of people believing in us before, like, I'm like, where's all my team of people that we're going to charge through this? And sometimes everybody's looking for somebody to take that risk, right? Like we talked about, like putting their feet in the water. Sometimes you got to be that person instead of be the person that's following. And a lot of that is just all inside of our minds. We know yellows actually are very observant people. So yeah, we can call things out in people. We can often know the answer. We just don't have confidence in ourselves to give the answer. And so you just kind of you gotta start doing and putting yourself out there a little bit. And that was one of the things I wanted to say too, is you don't have to change who you are to be successful in this business. I don't care what color you are. You don't have to change who you are. You just have to be willing to grow, right? Like when I hear all the weaknesses of a yellow, I'm not going to go, well, that's just my excuse. Like I'm just the helper. I'll be the person who, they used to say back in the day, like when you're at the party, your yellow person will take the money at the door. They'll help you get the wraps on, which that's great. And sometimes it's looked upon like, oh, well, they're just the helper. But yellows can be very powerful leaders, very powerful people. And so sometimes I'd be like, oh, I'm just a yellow, so I just do the little things, like I'll just be one of Sherry's presidentials, like I'll just be, and we like limit ourselves to what we can do. And so overcoming that stuff is a lot by just doing things scared out of your mind, doing your things without the belief in yourself, like surprise yourself, like just go for it. And when I would think of like strengths, like I'll stick around. Like I stuck through some junk in this business and it wasn't for myself, but I stuck it out. I stuck it out for my team members that were with me. I stuck it out for Sherry, because I believed in her. Loyal, you're just super loyal as a yellow. And we're not afraid of hard work. Like I'll put in the work. I'll put in the messaging. I'll put up the posts. I'll add the people. I'll do the hard work. That's not hard for a yellow to do hard work. Where we get stuck is just like in this mind game. I think more than anybody else, we get stuck in our minds. Where reds are like, I could get stuck in my mind, but I'm still going to like accomplish the goal. And yellows are over here going, should I do it? Like we waste so much sideways energy. But it's so beneficial to just go out there, do the hard work, know what's there, and we're pretty teachable. Like we'll do what you say. Like if you tell us we're going to be successful if we do this, as scared as we are, we're going to do it. So really, all I can say is my belief in myself, my belief in this business, my getting better in this business all came from doing the things I was scared to do and just trying them and failing and being successful and figuring out what worked for me. And you know, where John Maxwell always say, like, you fail forward, like, just, it's okay to fall, just fall forward. Like, pick, what'd you pick up while you're on the ground, you know, and not being scared to do that. And just really the biggest thing for me was just going, take a risk. And probably part of the blue in me is like, take a risk, just go. And surrounding yourself sometimes with people who will take that risk, who like bring alive that thing inside of you that like gets excited about taking on a challenge, or, you know, doing something new, or being bold and being loud. It actually is very freeing to do. I find as a yellow, you'll like, life will be so much more fun if you do.
So good. Did that help any of y'all yellows? Give me a 1 in the chat if that was helpful for you. And if you are not a yellow, first or second color, you're maybe like a red blue, red green, green red. Green blues are few and far between, but maybe you're that too. Put a 2 in the chat if that helped you and you're not a yellow. And that just kind of helped you understand them more. So whenever I think about a yellow, something that really helped me get yellows is, and this is speaking to people that aren't yellows, or maybe this is going to explain something that you didn't know about yourself as a yellow, is that like, okay, it's like somebody, they work at a place, okay, like they go to work, and you say, okay, you get off at 5. They're going to clock out at 5. But there's still work to be done, and reds might be like, why would you leave? Like, there's still stuff that needs to get done. But so we're thinking about the task and like what needs to be accomplished, but they're thinking, I get off at 5, I'm doing what I was told. But if you told a yellow, you need to stay late and get this stuff accomplished, they wouldn't make excuses, they would do it. And whether it's for them or for you, they would go and finish it, but they're not going to take the initiative to do that. They're very good at following the leader. They're very good at, but they're not going to be the one who's like, oh, I should probably stay late and finish up these tasks. Like, that's usually not going to be their MO. So if you get frustrated as a red, especially with a yellow who you're like, why are they not doing this? Why do I need to hold their hand? Because that's just who they are. And especially a yellow blue, that type of personality is never really going to be a lone ranger. They're really not ever going to be somebody who is just like 100% selfless. That's not what I meant to say. Like, independent. Thank you. I was like, selfless? What? So they're never going to be 100% independent. They're always going to, even though they don't need you, like Stacey doesn't need help right now, especially with just like the day-to-day stuff. But does she want it? Yeah, she loves it. She craves that like closeness, like that, like doing this. So hopefully that helps. And yeah, some color combinations are the ones that are just like the back and forth, like the yellow is much more reserved and the blue is much more adventurous. So there's that push pull with Stacey. And then if you're a yellow red, you have that like, let's go, but I don't know about that. Like you're going to have the back and forth, like the hesitation, but also the get up and go. But one thing before we move to the next question that was so funny, I started dying laughing when you started talking about like they'll be the person at the ticket, like they'll take the tickets. Do you remember when we were doing the tickets in Vegas? I was a horrible partner, guys.
I was like, there goes Morgan.
Guys, listen. Okay, side note, little funny story, and I sound like a man. I don't really know what's happening. I think it's allergies, but anyways, so they put me and Stacey, they're like, who wants to do tickets? I was like, sure, I want to meet everybody. Stacey was like, I'll help. I was like, okay. So I made a TikTok and signed 2 customers, and Stacey had the thing the whole time, like, okay, who else? Like, and then she was like, Morgan, did they sign in? And I was like, who? She was like, never mind. Like, it was awful. Like, she was doing so good at her job and I was struggling. So anyways, that was a perfect example. She's so right. She's the ticket person. I am the one who's like up front, like leading the hoorah at the beginning, getting them pumped up. Like, that's more my speed because I just like not very good at the ticket counter or ticket thing. But we did make a cute TikTok if you would like to follow me at Morgan Renee McIntyre. Okay. So, anyways, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is what are your daily non-negotiables and how do you fit this into your busy schedule so you don't work anymore, but you still do have 2 daughters who do crazy things, like working all the time. I know that they both do swim just from your posts and stuff. So how do you work this into your schedule?
Absolutely. So the things that are non-negotiable for me are invite. I like the word invite. Okay. I don't like the word message. That might help some of you yellows. I'm inviting people to be a part. That sounds very friendly. That sounds very inclusive. That sounds more like me. Okay. And I learned everybody wants an invite, right? So like invite people. Even, when do my feelings get hurt? When all my friends go to the movies, even if they know I can't go, right? And then I see them post about it. I'm like, why didn't you invite me? I wasn't even in town. But still, so think of it that way. Everyone deserves an invite. Everyone wants to be invited to the table. Why not? It's not on you for them to sign up. It's on you to ask. And forever, I'll tell you, my college roommate in my wedding didn't join with me in this business, even though she commented on my posts and did all the things. I was so scared to ask her. I didn't want to bug her. She joined someone else, one of my other friends, on a different leg of Sherry's, because she asked her, and she came to me, she's like, I joined so-and-so because you didn't ask me. Okay, so from that moment on, that was a life-changing mistake in this business. Like, ask everybody. So I make sure I invite people every day in this business. I grow my market. So adding friends on Facebook, adding friends on Instagram, or following people on Instagram, growing my market that way. I post in my stories. I try to keep them as full as possible. And in those stories, there's me, my life, what I'm doing, my kids, my husband. I post about products that I'm using, trying to make my products, or taking my products, before and afters, and business opportunity. So that's my posting side. I interact. I feel like that's super valuable. Just showing people you're interested in them, and then like that going back and forth. And so I spend time, I'll just put timers on my phone, and just go, okay, just either scroll all the way to the bottom on Facebook where it's not It Works people or my team members, and interacting there. Also, if you're old school and get on Facebook on your computer ever, you can make lists, and I have potentials lists on there. And then interact on Instagram. I follow up. That's huge. Huge. And I saw Sam Strickland. I don't know if she's still on here, but the follow-up key, when people like plug in, it's very rare that they sign on the first go round. You do have those freshers that jump first, but there's a whole lot of people where you got to follow up. And it's just simple things like, hey, I'm putting in orders today. Want me to add yours? Hey, I still think you'd be amazing at this business. What questions do you have? Hey, this promotion came out. Like, I spent so much time, y'all, I know y'all, you're on here. So I'm probably preaching to the choir, but I hope everybody on here spent a good amount of time following up today with those DTs or not time, just got a lot of messages out. And connect. So I follow up every day. I plug in. I need that. Morgan said it. I don't like doing this by myself. And so plugging in, and most of the times when I least feel like it is when I need it the most. Host a post, game changer. That changed my business, honestly, when I look at from when I went presidential, or from when I was triple diamond to ambassador. Host a post is one of the major things that just, like, if you're not doing that, there's so many trainings on it. There's so many ways to equip you to do that. And then as a leader, I connect with my team in different ways. So I spend time, I get my tasks done first. And then I connect with my people. So when you're asking kind of time-wise what that looks like, for me, I read the book. I love the book Miracle Morning. And all of that, people look at like, hey, how much sleep do you need to feel like good? Okay. So some people on here might say, hey, at 5 hours, I feel great. I'm like, more power to you. I wish that was me. Others of you might be more at that 7, 8. So if I know I feel best at like that 7 hours, then what time do I need to go to bed so I can wake up before everybody? We do power hours at 6:30 in the morning. We have tons of those from our different leaders on our team. But I don't like power hour to be the first thing I wake up to. So like, how do I get up before that, where I'm filling my cup? Okay. That's huge for all of us. Like, that whole analogy, like if you get squeezed, if you're a sponge and you get squeezed, what comes out of you? Whatever's inside of you. And I need that. Like, the worst thing for me is to look at my phone immediately when I wake up, because I know I'm going to get, right, the bigger our organizations grow, the more people we're going to have happy, and the more people we're going to have upset. That's just part of like growing an organization, part of growing a church, part of growing a business, part of growing a family. Like, it's just, you got it all in there. And so I need that. So prayer for me is really important. Put on some worship music, fill my heart with the word, know who I am outside of everything else that I carry. Like, more than I'm a mom, more than I'm a wife, more than I'm a business owner, more than I'm a leader, more than I'm a friend. I know I'm just a child of God and I'm loved for that. And then work from that place. And so, and I pray over my team. That's like a big thing. I pray the Lord blesses the works of our hands every day, and the people are brought in. And so, knowing all that, going to bed at a good enough time to get up. But if your section of time is like at the night, more power to you. My husband's totally a night worker. So I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum. I just know for me, mornings when no one's bugging my phone, when I'm not interrupted, like in the morning, I can do tasks in 10-minute time frames and get so much done. If I try to do that mid-morning or afternoon, I'm like, done. Like, I squirrel a little bit, like this person's messaging me here, da, 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 da. So one of the ways that helps me with that a ton is timers. I'm like, okay, I know I can get this message out in 10 minutes. So I always have a notepad beside me because this is how I got to release my brain. Okay. So if I'm sitting here and I'm trying to send out messages for host to post or messages for people who I think be great at the business, my brain starts thinking of something else. I write that thing down really quick. I don't go do that thing. I just write it down. So it's not affecting my brain. My timer's on. When my timer goes off, I go to my list and look at what's the most priority of what to do next when I have time. So I work 10-minute chunks a lot of time. Yes, my girls, I spent a lot of time driving when we didn't have COVID-19. So my big thing is I get places 10 minutes early and sit in the car and do whatever task it was. Like I'll just divide them up. I'm like, okay, we're growing our market right now. So working in the morning though, so I'm setting the temperature. My days are a lot better when I just get those things done. Like eat the ugly frog first, all those things, like get it done and kind of move on from there.
That's so good. And I think too, like we've talked a lot about not checking your phone first thing in the morning. We've also talked a lot about Miracle Morning, that book by Hal Elrod. It is so good. If you haven't watched it, my goodness, if you haven't listened to it or read it yet, you should. And then the other thing that you said too about timers, if you have a blue personality, especially squirrel brain, that's me, put a timer on your phone. Also, put your phone on Do Not Disturb. If any of y'all call me or FaceTime me to go straight to like do, it's because I have it on Do Not Disturb. I'm probably making a TikTok or I'm probably messaging or doing my tasks. But what I do too is like at the very beginning of the day, because otherwise I have stuff coming in. So if I can get up before all of you, I can get my stuff done and then I can be there for you to answer all of your messages, and you can do the same thing for your team. And so, or be there for your family so that way you can make your kids breakfast and sit there and have a conversation with them, knowing that you've already done your business for the day, knowing that you've already got a lot of messages out. And I love that you said like the inviting thing versus messaging thing. I think that freed a lot of people, because some people are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to message. I feel like I'm bugging people. But we're not, guys. Like, listen, if you have the desire to help somebody, how can you help them without keeping your mouth shut? You know, like if there's anything that you know is going to be helpful and beneficial to them, the best thing you can do is to tell them about it. So think about it that way and think about it as inviting. So yes, that's so good. Yeah. And I definitely feel like I do have squirrel brain and like I have 82,000 things going on at one time. And so another really good book that helped me is the High Performance Habits by Brendan Bouchard. I don't actually know how to say his last name. But he also, like, in his book, talked about a website, and then you can go watch videos from there. One thing that helped me was he was talking about his transition times between his tasks, and that's where he lost a lot of his energy during the day. It wasn't doing the task. It was going from this thing to this thing, and you'd get distracted and start scrolling and then try to move on to the next thing. You'd be super distracted. So he said, when you get done with one thing, so this might be for Stacey's example, going and sitting in her car. And she sits in her car for 10 minutes and she does her growing her network. And then if she's following the Brendan Bouchard system of her transitions, what she would do after those 10 minutes of adding to her network in the car with the girls in there before they go into, like, let's say swim practice, she would sit there for, it's supposed to be a minute, but it doesn't have to be that long, like literally just like transition in your mind, and you would sit there and you would think, okay, what am I doing next? Put the phone away. What am I doing next? What do I want to feel like when I do this thing? Who am I going to be with? What are some things? And just like start setting your mind up. And so then you're like, I want to be a really friendly person. I want to be the mom who goes and meets other people and makes everyone feel included. then you get out of the car and you are a really good mom. You are a really good friend to the other moms that are at swim class. You're attentive to your daughters while they're swimming, and you've already gotten your stuff done. Does that make sense? I think a lot of our energy is wasted whenever we're just like going from one thing to the other. We're just like, I'm so busy and I just have all these things going on, but you can control that. And so that's something that helped me a lot from that book. So hopefully that made sense. But okay, so we kind of talked about this a little bit, so you don't have to spend too much time on this because your wording even, I think, explained like what you do. But my next thing was, how do you get over the fear of what other people think and the fear of messaging people and upselling? And the reason I asked this is because you are yellow. I've never had that fear. I've only ever had the fear of not making enough money, so I don't care about messaging people. Like, that does not bother me. Like, I could care less what people think about that. But how did you overcome that, besides like, okay, you're inviting people, so that kind of helps your mindset? What about upselling? Do you upsell? How did you overcome that? All that good stuff. Because I know sweet little Kelly Brown didn't upsell either until I grabbed her phone and like literally sent the upsell message in Vegas, and she said yes. So what do you do for that?
Okay, so as far as messaging, I mean, I had to look at it as inviting. So there you go. That's what it was. I'm like, everyone deserves an invite. And then I think of myself, I would still not be doing this business if Sherry hadn't invited me. Like, I would not have voluntarily gone to anybody and said, I want to do something like this. And it's changed my life. Like, this is such a gift. And you could take away all the money, which that's a very yellow thing to say, but you could take it all away. And who I become is so much more than any of that stuff. I'm a better mom, better wife, better friend. And so when I look at, man, God has used this as a tool in my life in so many areas, why wouldn't I want to share this with anybody? Like, why would I keep that to myself? What a selfish thing to do. Okay. So that, as far as upselling, you know what helps me? And I don't know what book I read this in or what, Go for No. I don't know if y'all have, I listened to that, but that was a great book for me. It's really short. I'm driving most of the time, so that's when I listen to a lot of my books, when I'm driving. But every time you're at like, I don't get mad at the person at Starbucks that says, is there anything else you'd like? I don't get mad at them. I don't go, oh, they're bugging me. Oh, they're just trying to upsell me. No, they're just saying, is there anything else you'd like? Do you want a bigger size fry with your meal? You know what I mean? Like, it's everywhere. We're used to it. And so, just getting over that. Yeah, you want a cookie? Perfect. I'm like, yeah, I love cookies. But I just scrolled. Sorry. There you go. You saw some of my blue come out strong. But so in that, I generally know I want happy customers, right? Like, I know for me, Joey lost 50 pounds doing fat fighters, thermal fight, and greens. So I know that combination of three, I'm like, if you can do that and portion control, that's how Joey lost 50 pounds. No exercise, no anything else, just there you go. And so that was to getting testimonies. So upsell, I did get that from you, but I'm just like, once you start asking and you see the results of it, you're like, why was I not doing this before? So like, don't hold yourself back over there thinking you're going to bug somebody.
So good. It's just a mindset thing. And guys, she did it whenever she didn't feel like doing it or wasn't sure about it. And then she just started seeing the results. And she was like, why am I not doing this? Like, she didn't say like, one day I woke up and I wasn't afraid to send out messages anymore, so now I do it. And I wasn't afraid to upsell anymore, so now I do it every time. Like, she said that she did it scared, and that was one thing that she said earlier. I don't know if y'all caught that, but if you didn't, it was so good. She said, do it scared. And I think that that's going to be the name of the game for especially yellows and greens. If you're yellow, green, double whammy, do it scared. Because there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to overanalyze and sit back and think about. And one thing that Craig Rochelle says, and he's a pastor and he talks a lot about leadership, he said, I'd rather you make aggressive mistakes because you're doing something, you're out there putting in the effort and the action, versus sitting back and overanalyzing everything and making passive mistakes because you're just sitting back and not doing anything. So the bigger mistake is going to be to not even ask. The best mistake you can make is to ask and do it wrong and fail and screw up and get a no and keep going, because then you're going to know what not to do. And that's the only way that the people who know what to do, how they know what to do, is that they knew what not to do. Okay, so the next question that I have for you is, how do you instill belief in your yellows?
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot of yellows don't have a lot of confidence. Even whenever I said like y'all are so strong, a lot of people were like, we are. Like I feel like some yellows just like don't have a lot of confidence. And some, I mean, yeah, there's other colors that have that too. But how do you instill confidence in people that are yellow, or how did you gain confidence in this business? Because I know that you totally didn't have any when you joined, you said.
Absolutely. So I think there's a lot of power as a yellow to borrow somebody else's belief. So like right now, you have a powerful leader sitting in front of you every week, giving you herself and giving you that belief in Morgan, and you borrow that belief until it becomes your own. Like I had to learn that. I had to borrow belief. Like Sherry's like, invite people to your house for a wrap party. I'm like, what? She's like, I just did it. Okay, I'm going to do it too. And like, so like, there's that. So you borrow it. You just borrow it and it starts to become your own. I don't know how else to like put it in any other way. Like borrow my belief tonight. Like as a yellow sitting here who didn't, I was like, if I don't lose money, like that was my goal when I joined, like, just don't let me lose money. Okay. I was not like, oh my gosh, I'm going Ambassador Diamond. I'm like, what if I go Ruby in a year and I'm literally making like $300 to $500 a month? Like, wow, that would be crazy. I did that in a month. I'm like, borrow my belief. You can do it. I sat there. I'm like, and then I thought, oh my gosh, is this all going to go away? Like, don't function from a scarcity mentality, right? The sun shines on all of us. The sun shines on all of us. God does not want you to have a scarcity mentality, a fear mentality. Just go for it. You're his child. He loves you so much. He wants what's best for you. And you have to function from that place, even if you don't feel it. It's a truth that we hold on to. And so as a rep, like if I were talking to you, Morgan, I'd say a big thing would be celebrate all the wins. Like there's things that reds, greens, blues, you don't think about, like whatever, we all don't necessarily think about with each other. They come naturally to us, but sometimes you got to stop for a second and go, oh, that was something not natural for them. So I really need to celebrate that. Because now I'm like, yeah, I remember being super scared to put up a post. Right? I remember being super scared to send out that message. And so I'm not going to forget how scared I felt and not celebrate that next, like, oh my gosh, you did that. Like, great job. Celebrate the effort, celebrate all the wins. So putting the message out there, signing the LC, knowing, hey, if you signed LC, you can sign a DT, and giving that belief in a huge way. Doing it a little bit louder. Like, here's the things I could say, especially with reds. You guys are so good at words, but you're really bad at faking words. So don't give fake compliments. A yellow can see through that. So if you're like kind of faking it out there, that's not going to necessarily be a win. It's like, oh, they're just giving me like a little, that was like a crumb from the table. Thanks, that was from the side of your mouth. Whatever. But just, I mean, honestly, when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, you're going to change. And I know I said this earlier and I just used the word change. You don't have to change. You have to grow. All of us, that's where we come to. We don't have to like become somebody else to be successful in this business. You do have to grow. And I'm right now reading a book by John Maxwell called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. Okay. And I want you to think about this for 2 seconds, because he talks about gaps. Like if we were to stop for a second and go, let me evaluate where these gaps are. And here's the thing. Gaps, personalities, all the things, you don't use them as an excuse to not grow. You, like when you see these faults, you just don't do that. But anyways, he talks about gaps. All right. Where are gaps in your growth? Where's gaps in your organization? Here's the gaps. There's an assuming gap. Like, oh, this will just happen. Like this business is just going to be successful because I joined. Don't assume that. Okay. You have to put in the work. And then there's a mistake gap where we go, well, I don't want to make a mistake, so I'm not going to try anything. I'm just not going to do it all so I don't make a mistake. That's a gap in your business. You have to try. You have to learn. It's like lifting a weight. You're not going to like go to the gym and, curl, I don't know, for me, 25 pounds. Okay. That's not going to happen. But I'm also not going to like wait till I'm ready, because if I don't practice, I'm not going to be ready. Does that make sense? Kind of same as a business. Like, don't wait till you're ready. Okay, so don't worry about making a mistake. Don't worry about dropping the weight. Don't worry about doing that. And then there's a perfection gap. Like, I just need to do the perfect message. I just need to send out the perfect message so everybody will sign, or the perfect upsell, whatever. That's a gap, right? And we get stuck in these gaps, and you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. You can't say the wrong thing to the right person. That's basically what it falls down to. So you just got to ask the people. So don't be waiting for everything to be perfect. There is a knowledge gap sometimes. Like, I don't know. Now, I would say everybody on this Zoom, you can't use that excuse. You are fully equipped with everything that's going on. You just got to plug in and learn the thing, okay? But sometimes you learn by doing. That's a huge thing. Like, you will know. You are equipped to do everything. So there's a knowledge gap. Sometimes there's a timing gap. Like, maybe this isn't the right timing, right? Like, no, if there's a parent on here, right, put a 1 in the chat. There's not a right time to have kids. There's not a right time to get married. Like, there's never a right time for anything. There's not a right time to promote. There's not a right time to send out messages. There's not a right, like, it doesn't, timing is not a gap you should use. And then there is a comparison gap. Well, I'm not her. I'm not them. So because I'm not them, I can't grow. I can't go forward. Nope. Don't use that as a gap. Don't you dare. You have everything you need to do what you need to do. There's 2 more. There's an expectation gap. This wasn't what I expected. So maybe not. This was harder than I expected. Yep. But here's the truth. You can do hard things. Every one of your faces that are on here, your ears that are listening, you can do hard things. Don't let that be a gap in your organization. And the last one is sometimes we have inspiration gaps. I just not feeling it. No. I mean, if I were a mom when I felt like it and not a mom when I don't feel like it, like, we'd be in a lot of trouble, okay? Like, my girls, yes, sometimes they're getting cereal, but they're still going to get cereal. I'm still going to provide for them, right? Sometimes in your business, you may be feeding it cereal for a night, for a meal. That's okay. You still feed it cereal, right? Don't wait to feel it. It's not going to come from anybody else. It's got to come from inside, and you just got to do it.
Man, that is good. I feel like I can relate to a couple of those gaps that you talked about. So the thing that stuck out to me too is what you were saying is, like, don't wait until you feel it. And one thing that Mike Patillo always says, I know he's not the one who coined the phrase, but he's always who I think of whenever I think of this phrase. He always says, don't wait till you feel it. Just do it anyway, and the feeling will follow. Mm-hmm. And guys, how many times have y'all experienced that? Like, put a 3 in the chat if you've already experienced the times that you didn't want to message, but you did it anyways. Then you felt excited. You didn't post, but on the time that you didn't want to post, you did it anyways. And then somebody responded and they were like, hey, I'm ready to get started. Or you got a potential from it. Or how many times have you said, like, I don't want to hop on a team Zoom, and it was exactly what you needed. Maybe some of you are right there tonight. You're like, I don't want to get on. It's Monday night. I don't want to be up late. And you got on and you just, like, heard just life-changing stuff, right? So do it anyways. And let that be the anthem for you for the rest of the month and for the rest of the year, because there are going to be times where you don't always feel it. And I know that if you are the yellow blue color personality, just because we're talking a lot about colors, y'all are all very feelings driven, okay? And that's why I feel like a counselor half the time. I am not feelings driven at all. Like, my arm could be severed off and I could be, like, upside down in a car next to a tree, and I'd be like, hang on, I know I need to go on the gurney, but I have to sign this customer. Give me 1 second. Like, that would be me. And so it's hard for me to relate to that. But one thing that I will tell you is that it's a big strength and a big weakness sometimes, but it's a big strength that I can just kind of power through. So even though that may not come naturally to you, what Stacey's saying is, don't let that be an excuse. Even though you are really feelings based, and even though you are really feelings driven, do it even though you don't feel it, even though you don't feel like it, even though you don't feel like this is going to happen, even though you don't feel like it's coming together. Do it anyways. Because guess what? All of this stuff adds up. If you've ever listened to The Compound Effect, a lot of you have listened to that book, you know that everything you do today adds up, either working towards your goal or working you away from your goal. There is no such thing as coasting upwards. You only coast downwards. So if you're not actively working on your business, you're working away from your business, you're working away from your goals. So one thing that she said that really just stuck out to me was that just like continue to work even though you don't feel like it, and pushing through those hard times, because we're going to have hard times in the business, and some of those hard times are going to be some of those gaps that she talked about, just expectations or some of the feelings that we have surrounding our business. But guys, you can do hard things. And I know that I took so much away from this. I was like jotting down notes and like the creases and like little spots in my notes and stuff. Like, it was so good. So thank you so much for hopping on here for us and for giving us your time. And I know that this was just amazing. Thank y'all, or thank her, there we go, for hopping on here, because I know it spoke volumes